But I think what has really gotten me here so far and where my drive comes from, I believe it's from my fear of failure. Was always chasing other people, like other kids. And so in order for me to compensate that, I had to overshoot in order to be able to catch up to other people.
Fail fast. Fail as fast as you can and learn from it. That's how I've worked my whole life. And I think that's why I work faster than a lot of people around me.
A spiritual thought process through that learn how to free their mind, the existing metrics, to be able to actually disrupt what is happening.
A lot of people that are financially free, they understand that what they enjoy doing is not how they make money.
A lot of people are connecting the meaning of existence with what they do, or what car they drive, or what they wear, or what type of partner they have. If you get those things from them, it's like an attached identity, and then they become meaningless.
I think most of the time I am introverted, and 30 or 40% of the time I can be extroverted. So I think I am a good mix between the two. But I think what has really gotten me here so far and where my drive comes from, I believe it's from my fear of failure. There is no middle ground for me. It's either I give it my all, give it 100%, or it's not worth doing. And so that's what really pushes me. And I think where that comes from is the fact that, having come here at an early age, I felt like I was very socially aware, and I always felt like I also was always chasing other people, like other kids at school and whatnot. And so in order for me to compensate that, I had to overshoot in order to be able to catch up to other people. And so I think this drive and this fear of failure that's where it's come from and it stems from. And has really, really pushed me. So the accomplishments that I have had in my life, whether it be school, whether it be uni, whether it be with job, has always stemmed from that, the fear of failure. And that has really, really pushed me so far.
Look, you found something that is really valuable at a very young age.
Yeah.
A lot of people go through their entire life and they don't get this concept.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what really pushes them, yeah, for sure.
It's something, that's why it is really important. It's about the self-understanding as
Exactly,
well. It's
yeah.
about, why am I living? Okay?
Yeah.
Because, you get to these goals. Okay, how much do you get happy? And how much it actually lasts long?
Yeah.
Is it for the survival, or is it just for the joy? Or is it for both?
Yeah. I think for the accomplishments I had, mostly has been, for survival essentially, right? Going through high school, going through uni, getting a job and whatnot. So it's one thing to have a drive and understanding what that is, and it's to have goals, right? And knowing what the right goals are. But it's also having the drive in order to have those accomplishments, those goals. So both of them is important. If you know what drives you, again, like you said, it's where do you go? What goals do you aim for, if those are the goals that you want? But the drive is equally as important in order to be able to get there. You can have great goals and things that you like, but what if it doesn't push you? Then what's the point? Or if you don't know really how to?
If you're able to give us an example, say, didn't you get the ducks at your school?
Yeah.
So how was it in terms of your mindset and going through that process and actually making that achievement?
Yeah.
How did you find, how you were and your view of things, how it was? And then once you made that achievement, did you feel the satisfaction that you ideally thought you'd get? Or was the feeling,
Yeah, so again, going back to Mark's point, right? There was the goal and the mechanism by which you get to that goal. And I think for having come from Afghanistan and having, how education is back then, it was all about education. That was the means of survival, right? And so that was deeply ingrained within me from my parents at an early age. And so having gone through high school, that was there. And the fear of failure, because if you're not educated, if you don't pass your TOEFL, if you don't get a good grade, then you're a failure, and then you don't survive essentially. So that philosophy was certainly ingrained within me. But then there's your goals. So I certainly had the mechanism. I was ambitious. I was studious. There was no doubt about that. And that's what really pushed me to get the ducks of the school. But was I really satisfied there? Maybe not, because it was not really something that I pushed for. But certainly I was really proud of that achievement. I think in the school, I was in the 60 or 65 years of the school, I was the first African there. So certainly proud of the achievement. But was it a goal that I set for myself? Not really, because I wanted to make my parents proud. But I certainly had the mechanism by which, to achieve that. And I was capable, and I knew I was capable of achieving that, and even beyond. But yeah. Yeah.
And with that leading on to it, what about, I guess, repeating that same thing in terms of with your honours results? Exact
same thing. It's, if I put my mindset to something, and if I'm invested in that, there is no doubt about it, but I have to, it has to be 100% for me. It can't be zero. It doesn't work like that. There is no middle ground in which, you can take a rest, or take it easy. Like how I've grown up, 20 years or so, 23 years or so, I have to go full drive. And I think, and so again, the same kind of drive that I had at high school, same thing to uni. And so again, and we were honest together. So both of us got first class. So Bijit knows how I work, and I know how Bijit works. Again, it's pushing for it and not leaving no stone unturned, because you don't want to have regrets as well. Yeah. And you're capable of it. If you know you're capable of, you don't sit back. You go to the nth degree in order to be able to achieve your goals. And so the same thing with uni as well.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. So were you saying that it's really valuable to have a fear of failure? For
me, it is.
For you, it is, okay.
Given where I've come from.
Yeah.
But for some people, it might not necessarily be an issue.
Mine's exactly the opposite. I like failing because my whole motto is fail fast. It's like, fail as fast as you can so that you learn the mistakes you need to make and learn from it, and then you get to your solution. And that's how I've worked my whole life. It's like, and I think that's why I oftentimes I find that I work faster than a lot of people around me, especially at work, just because I don't try to get things to perfection. I'm very iterative, and that's how my process works. But I think, like you say, it works differently for every person, and you play your strengths. So.
I'd say I was very much like that. I was very much a perfectionist, and whatever I have to do, whatever it be design, whether it be work, whether it be eating right, whatever it may be, I have to be a perfectionist. And I think about it 100 times before. What is the saying that you have to cut something? Think about it. Cutting something 1,000 times and cut once. So I have to be able to know the risk. I'm very risk averse, but at the same time, I'm a perfectionist. But I think what I've learned from that is you can't have that, because you'll never start. You can't. The first introduction to your essay that you're going to write is going to be rubbish. It's not going to be perfect. And so I was at high school. I was a couple of hours just staring at the screen as to how to write the best introduction to this English essay that I was doing. But you never start. Yeah. And so you're paralyzed by perfection. And so what I learned was, in order to be able to reach there, it goes to your point, progression over perfection. Fail fast, do it iteratively. Yeah. And by doing that, then you get to perfection. But you don't get to perfection in the first hit. You never do.
There was a story that I heard about this professor at a university who teaches a photography class. And he wanted to test a theory in his head. And what he did was he split his class in two. And he told one class that they're going to get judged at the end of the year. So you said take photos throughout the whole year, and they're going to get judged at the end of the year based on one photo that's going to be the best photo that they take, right? And they're going to be judged just solely on that one photo.
Yeah.
And then the other class, the half of the class, they said, you're going to be judged. It doesn't actually matter what you take photos of. You're only going to get judged on the number of photos you take, right? So just take as many photos as you can, right? At the end of the year came around, what ended up happening was all the best photos in the class came from the group that took the most photos. Because the people, the half of the class that were told to take the best photo, they overthought way too much about trying to get the perfect shot that they never actually ended up taking enough photos to actually get it to come out. Exactly. And I think that was the moral, same thing as you were saying. It's just like,
progression
sometimes quantity over quality well, if you have enough quantity,
It has a quality of its own.
Exactly.
But I think that's where the beauty of it comes out as well, is to have the combination of the both. And that's where, I find a lot of people, it's good to, network and talk to other people, because you sort of get that idea of everyone else is a bit different. But I think in terms of how I see the ideal viewpoint and the ideal trait is have the quality mindset of Nemad, but then have the risk mindset of yourself, Bijan, and then mold it together. So you're taking calculated risks, but you're still not allowing yourself to just sit there and think constantly. Because when you spend that much energy thinking, you don't have the energy to actually do. And I think everyone should definitely take that experience that you've both lived, and try to make the most of molding both of them together.
If you're looking at it if you look at the broader society, I think what you guys are speaking about is, having an aim in life. Okay. And these goals and aims needs to associate with the financial targets. Okay. Then you hit somewhere and then you gain something.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, one of the reasons that I could get on well with you guys, because having a goal and aim in life immediately makes you humble. Okay, because when you have a goal, you're looking at it from the bottom. So there is a bigger things than you, and when there is a bigger aim, a bigger goal, then you start looking at it how kind of approach, and it immediately shapes the behavior.
Yeah.
But what is happening with the AI at the moment is that for a lot of people it's difficult to define a goal.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what they're gonna do that they're gonna stay relevant.
Yeah.
When they're actually going towards that aim and goal.
Yeah.
Okay. And that I do find it difficult. I seriously don't know the answer to it, but but what I know about it is that we need to change.
Yeah.
How we're going to change, I'm still not sure.
But do you think meaning exists out there for you, or do you create meaning in life? And so going to the AI question, you're like, people are going to get displaced, right, in terms of their jobs. And so what are they going to do with their lives? And so there's a kind of absence of meaning. But why can't they just create meaning with what, the aftermath of, for example, if they lose their jobs, why can't they create meaning? I personally, I'm of the view that you do create your own meaning.
You know that you're talking about entrepreneurship.
Not necessarily.
It isn't really, because people don't get about entrepreneurship that this is exactly about creating a meaning. Because you're finding a gap. I'm talking about the true entrepreneurship. I'm not talking about, people coming along and talk about money, money is something that entrepreneurs make.
Yeah.
Okay. It's about value, but immediately is about how you create meaning.
Yeah.
Okay, or meaningful problem that it's worthy of solving.
But what about, for example, social enterprises and things that are outside the realm of entrepreneurship? For example, let's say the Khan Academy. They're not about making money. They're about,
But they are the social entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So it's again still in the realm of the entrepreneurship.
And so let's talk about, like, for example, let's say, Malala, Malala Yousafzai, in terms of, advocating for the rights of women and education. That is a meaning, that is a purpose, that is not necessarily tied to finances, which is my point, right? You can separate the two. But what you can do is entrepreneurship is the vehicle by which you can affect change greatly, right? I think it can be separated, and they're not always the one. So for people that want to make change and have a purpose and meaning in their lives, they're like, if you tell them you have to be an entrepreneur in order to be able to do that, you disregard those people. Or you separate them, or you isolate them, right? Yeah. And so I think it's two different things, but certainly they can merge. And the significant impact that you do make is when they are both an entrepreneur with a purpose.
Look, and by the way, anything that I talk or say or any reference that I use, please go and check it, because I do have a lot of memory reading here and there, and sometimes the references go around. But to answer to your point, to get to the point that you're talking about the free thinking, okay? Free thinkers can create meanings.
Yeah.
That's where I started about my meditations. Okay, how you free yourself up from the matrix that you are actually living on. Because until you don't come out of it, you don't really understand, is the meaning is there, or I need to create it. It's very interesting. If you look at Mark Zuckerberg, if you look at Elon Musk, if you're looking at Bill Gates, these guys have spent sometimes in ashrams, or when became a yogi, or became sort of like some sort of a spiritual thought process through that learned how to free their mind up, and then how to exit the existing matrix to be able to actually disrupt what is happening.
So what you're saying is that in order to be able to get to that level, you need to have entrepreneurship or business such that you're financially free. Then you have the luxury of being able to.
I also think so. When you keep saying the word financially free, I think it's too broad.
Financially sustainable.
No, okay. So
it depends on the person.
No, I'm saying it depends.
And it's all relative.
It depends on your personal liability that you put on yourself. Yeah. Right? If you keep every time you get more money, if you decide to spend it, over leverage yourself, you'll never be financially free because you'll always spend more than you have, regardless of how much you get.
Living below your means.
No, yeah, but I'm saying if your means are fixed, if you live on 80,000 a year, right? Yeah. But you have no debt and your means are fixed, and then you double your income, but you don't change your means, you are financially free.
But the thing is, you need to be financially free, right? So, or be able to live in a way in which is financially sustainable, right?
Yes, correct.
But where is that 80,000 coming from?
From working.
From working.
But what's wrong with working?
I mean, there's nothing.
Even if you work for yourself, you're still working.
But the thing is it work that you want to do, or are you forced to do?
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So there is financial. I think just by the words financial freedom, just by that itself, you want financial freedom, but the goal there is to be free.
Sure.
I think. And so separated from, for example, if I have a couple homes or something like that, or a couple businesses that I franchise away, that then produces an income that I am free. I think
why is that free? Because if you said work that you want to do, right?
Sure.
I have technical leads at work that absolutely love technology and engineering, and they love coming to work every day with the fact that they get to work with the absolute latest.
But we're talking about, for example, what if they get displaced by AI? That was the context by which mark. So if they've got nothing to do, right? If they're occupied with things that they don't care about,
but this is the thing, though. A lot of people that are financially free, they understand that what they enjoy doing is not how they make money, right? You could have a logistics business where you sell toilet paper globally. Yeah. Nobody's going to love that. But yeah, it'll bring in multiple millions of dollars a year.
And it's the money that they use to then bring purpose to their life.
So I don't think you have to work, what you're working, you have to enjoy necessarily.
So in a sense that you need to be worthy of being free.
Oh, for sure. You can't expect something to.
The other thing is, a lot of people. This is the thing. A lot of people, because they don't have a purpose and meaning in life, if they get free, it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay, because they can do more harm.
Yeah, I think that's so true.
So AI shouldn't displace those individuals.
That is a danger at the moment that everyone is talking about. Okay, I love AI because if I'm doing a task and I can do it twice, I feel useless because if it can be done twice,
repetitive,
definitely a robot can do it better than me. Okay, and then I'm like, that's not my job because I have a better meaning for life or better meaning for my time. Okay, but some people don't think like that. Okay, and that's the danger because they don't know what to do with their free time. And that's the danger that most tech people actually are talking about from a social aspect. Because a lot of people are connecting the meaning of existence with what they do in life, okay, or what car they drive, or what they wear, or where they go, or what type of partner they have, or it's about all those things. But if you get those things from them, it's like an attached identity, okay. And then they become meaningless because they define the meaning in all those things.
Yep.
And they'll do anything under the sun to find the meaning.
If you look at living style of the Steve Jobs, for instance, okay, he was a billionaire and he was one of the most successful, probably one of the richest guys. If he wanted to become the richest guy, he would. And he was one of the entrepreneurs that a lot of people actually looked up to him, including Bill Gates, Elon Musk. If you look at his house from outside, it's a pretty ordinary suburban house. You wouldn't believe that a multi-billionaire actually live in that house. Okay, and then these guys actually create. These are the guys who actually create meaning. Okay, and unfortunately there is a bad reputation around entrepreneurs that these people want to become rich and that's it. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Becoming rich, unfortunately, becoming a super rich is a bug of the system.
Yeah.
Because everyone else is just too much in a slave mentality that some of these people become so free and they know how to create meaning and value that suddenly it's a free market that it makes them super rich. Okay. But what if everyone else is slowly becoming smarter? So it's like a graph, it's not like this.
Yeah.
Everyone becomes, the wealth and the comfort becomes sort of equivalent.
And accessible.
Yeah. And that is exactly what Elon Musk actually talks about. Or other entrepreneurs. It's about how do you distribute wealth. It's not about creating a communist system because you cannot create communist, you cannot make everyone rich by enforcing the richness towards everyone.
Because people spend money differently. Yeah.
Correct.
Exactly.
But you need to create a system, or we need to create a system that individually people start thinking about how they can actually create value as well as freedom for themselves. Okay.
If they want to.
If they want to.
This is the big part. Even to the point where not everyone wants that. Some people, because if everyone wanted that, you wouldn't have people that want, equal wealth for everyone.
But there's a reason why we're in this situation, and it's not even by choice. That's my opinion. It's how the Western powers have ideally structured how they want society to be structured. So say, for example, in terms of distributing wealth, right? We could take all the money in the world and evenly distribute it to every single person. Give it a decade or two, it'll end up in the same pockets of the people that already had it. Because of just generations of educating, generations of, mind training, essentially, to create that hierarchy. And it's very difficult to get a lot of people off of that. So I think even for us, we are few and far between from our generation and our family lineage that chooses to be like, okay, actually, I want to find a purpose. And then going back to that entrepreneur thing, where I feel like the problem with the word entrepreneur is, in this day and age, especially in modern society, it's given that meaning of money, but it's never been about the money. Entrepreneurship has always been finding a gap in something, making it your purpose to fill that gap, or to be able to service the society, to resolve an issue that there is. The byproduct of that is money and success. But your mind is so trained and is so focused on resolving that issue that you don't get distracted by the money. You're going to get a better house, you're going to get a better car, you're going to eat out here and there. but you're never going to allow yourself to be poisoned by the influx of wealth. Whereas nowadays, it's been so toxically changed where it's, you want to be an entrepreneur? Invest in stocks. You want to do like drop shipping or e-commerce or just,
Where you don't add any value.
exactly. You're taking crap
manipulate
and you're shoving it down people's throats for a quick dollar. So I think that's definitely
Sorry to interrupt. I agree with all of it. I just want to add something in there because one thing you said that Western society is structured that way. I want to take it away and say, I know you're not meant to actually talk about conspiracy theory or anything like that. And I know what you're trying to say is that I don't believe that there is any evil force that wants to structure it that way. It's just because it's a byproduct of the complex systems.
yes.
Human psychology and system psychology is a very new knowledge that humans have. It's not even 60 years old. Okay. So before that, we didn't know how the society runs. And these secrets existed throughout the history. Okay. But some people did have access to it, understood it by luck, but however is that to embrace it, to actually go through the darkness of themselves, okay, and come out of it. And if you read Rumi, for instance, this is completely, off the track, but Rumi talks about these things. Rumi talks about the darkness.
Can you talk about who Rumi is?
Rumi,
I know, but for
I don't know who it is.
yeah, for people,
who is Rumi? Who is Rumi?
Rumi was Iranian or Afghan, I think.
Persian.
Yeah.
Rumi was a Persian.
No.
So there is always this
Was it
tension
like
as
a
to where he's
philosophy?
grown in. I think it's like Khorasan.
Yeah.
Like Khorasan meaning like a combination, I believe. It's of Iran and Afghanistan back in the day.
Who was he?
And Rumi was an Iranian poet. A really great, renowned poet.
Yeah.
And Sufi, I believe.
Sufi,
Yeah.
It was Sufi, but
Very
it's
well-renowned.
very well renowned in the Western society because
In all societies, actually.
in all societies because it impacts. Okay, and I don't want to go and downpack because this is logical, but it's talking about overcoming the shadows. It is talking about the love of what you do. And he's talking about the essence of why we are here and why we're living. Coming back to your point, is that people were not aware of these things, okay? And now in the modern society, with the accessible flow of information and data and how these things go, people are just going to the next level of understanding of themselves and surrounding environment. But it's a free society. There are artists that they try to sell things, okay, and they sell share stocks investments or things like that, or over investments, okay, things like that, as entrepreneurs, but it's part of the learning. The society is learning, okay, and I have a good faith in that. To be honest, I'm very optimistic and positive.
Given the fact that Mark is an entrepreneur.
Yes, that's right.
Look,
I was lighting for money there.
Look, you wanted us.
But then again,
You wanted me, introducing myself and go all of that. And it's usually I don't go talking about myself. It's very uncomfortable because.
did we just skip Mark?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to avoid.
No, it's fun. I'm very comfortable because
Mark, tell us about it. All right.
most of the things that I've done, it's sort of like an accidental in life. Yeah. I didn't want to be an entrepreneur. I was playing things around and then suddenly ended up being an entrepreneur. I have no idea how it did happen, to be honest.
Yeah.
But I would call myself a complete geek, and the total nerd, when I was in high school or even before that. You leave me in a room, give me books and computers and things, and probably give me some food as well. You probably maybe not as well. You would never hear of me anything. I would be more comfortable by myself in that world. Yeah. Okay. And that's the world that I lived through up until probably 16. The question came up, like, why? And then because I was also a naughty person, I was playing soccer, I was playing violin, I was playing instruments, and going places around to explore things. And then I was telling Ali about it. I mean, the education system that I was brought up was very different from Australia. Okay, you're talking about, goals and things here. It was a survival borderline in where I was, that your entire life was dependent on a 4 hours exam after your high school. Okay, which defines what you're going to study, which university you're going to go, which city you're going to go, all of that in a 4-hour exam. And then I was like, and my ATAR equivalent was 98. Okay, not just end of the high school, the entire high school. Okay, and even below that. Like, why? It feels like someone just was standing on my throat. Like, you have to do this. I'm like, I just can't do it. And it's, so I'm a migrant. I came here. And looking back, I could not go to my dad and say, give me money to go away, because I knew that it's just too much of a pressure. Okay, it was a huge investment and it was a huge risk, to ask him to give me money to go away to Australia and study. I was like, but then he saw it that I just cannot live in a system like that. I was probably 13 that I read Nietzsche. I was probably 14. I read Freud, and I was exposed to these things. I used to read Rumi, and I was exposed to these things about the same question: is there meaning exist, or do we create meaning?
I certainly think the latter. I think we create meaning.
So for me, it started at a very early age because I was exposed to a situation that I had to decide. I had to make decisions. Okay, so then. At one point, because of the environment that I was living in, and I don't want to make it political, but it was partially political reasons that my parents were like, it just is not safe for you to live here with your ideology, okay, with your thinking process. And it's just, if you go anywhere else, it's just safer for you. You know what I mean? And that's how I left the country that I was born in at the age of 17. Okay, and I did migrate twice before I come here. Okay, so that's part of the story. And I don't want to talk about how many master's degree I have or how many degrees I'm doing or what, because I don't believe that those things define me.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay? Funny enough, I've done so many degrees and all of that around. I've never gone for a graduation.
Really?
I do not have a picture of it. I don't even know what the parchments are, to be honest. You know what I mean? Every time my mom actually rings, I'm like, did you do it? I'm like, no, I just didn't feel like going there. It's just like, because of the same thing. It just all the time is on top of my head, is because if I participate in one of those things, it's like I hit the finish line. That's about it. And I don't feel like I'm like, I love to be always a student, because there's just everything that I learn, I just learn that I don't know something else that I need to learn. And that's what makes me alive. And it hasn't been easy, because I've been judged harshly by a lot of people through this journey. But then after some point, I've realized that I don't need to define myself.
I actually find that that thing that you just said about wanting to be a student, I found that to be so beautiful though, because I notice a lot of people in any society, they stop being students. They hit year 12, they hit year 10, say year 10, they go into the trades. They really lose that mindset to be a sponge and to just absorb and to question why. If I'm doing this, why am I doing it? How can I do it better? Like I find 99% of the society just when after they finish tertiary education or whatnot, and they get some sort of qualification, they just run with it. They never question afterwards. They're like, okay, this is what I have to do. You go up to somebody that's an electrician or something like that. You go, why are you doing this? They go, well, it's what I've done. It's what I was told to do. But what's the purpose behind it? I don't know. Like, would you actually want to take the time to actually go and learn the meaning behind it? And they go, actually, no. I'm making money, all that stuff. But so many people need to take a step back and relearn to be a student. Just not even just in education, but life education. And just in any aspect of life, just be like, all right, why am I doing these things? How can I do better?
I think that goes back to the point that, like, you make an assumption there that everyone, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here. I have an idea that I don't think everyone is built the same. So you know how people say they're built different? I genuinely think that's true, because I don't think the world would work if everyone wanted to be a student forever, because we need people that don't as well. We need people that, you know, do all sorts of jobs and do all kinds of degrees and you know, have all sorts of professions. And I think it was designed that way. I don't think everyone is meant to be the same.
But I think what Ali was talking about is not necessarily to be a student where you do a PhD.
No. Yes.
It's more about engaging in your curiosity and really tapping into that, because then that leads you to question things, right? And to understand things more.
You know what though? It's like, I get that point of view, but I'll use that electrician. I'll continue with that example, right? If, let's say that electrician is, his biggest thing in life is that he wants to just make money because he has a family, and his passion and his love and his biggest goal is to be a good father, right? And that electrician, even though he himself didn't have that student mindset, but his goal was just to do his job so he can provide for his children and love them and give them everything they needed. Then instead of one person doing that, let's say they have 4 kids. All of them, because of his commitment to his kids, all of them are able to have that freedom to think freely and creatively like that. And then the follow-on effects of that is a lot bigger than just having one person do it. And I think that goes back to like, there's a really good saying, and it's like, I don't know it off the top of my heart, but essentially saying it's talking about generational wealth, but how it at the end of the day always goes back to being poor. And it's like, my parents, I don't think they didn't have the opportunity and freedom to be creative and think like that, but they were about hard work and providing for me and my sister. But their sacrifice is the reason I have the freedom to do so. And I think my sacrifice will be the reason my kids are going to be a lot more off than I was growing up, and have a lot more different set of opportunities. But I think it's inevitable that a couple more generations down the line, people will take advantage, people become greedy, and people will lose things, and you have nothing to like relate to.
That's the circle of life.
It's a circle, but I think it's needed in every generation. You need people that are surviving, and you need people that are thriving. And if everyone was thriving, the world wouldn't work.
See, and that's where, honestly, as I said, in terms of like, for me, I question why a lot of people don't think a lot, and they don't question their things. But then, even listening to you talk, it sort of contradicts my point that I've said previously, is where the more you think, the more you tend to question things, and then when you question things, you become stagnant. So you allow things to affect you more, because you go, why is this affecting me? What did I do to deserve this? Or things like that. And you sort of allow things to really affect you a lot more. Instead of having that, I guess, stubbornness to be like, who gives a shit? I don't care. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Let me move on. So I think there has to be a combination. And again, everything in life has to be in moderation. There has to be a period where you just stubbornly, and aspects of life that you're just very stubborn. You're like, I don't care. I don't need to think. Let me just put my head down, do what I need to do. But then I feel like a lot of people just need a small period in their week, their month, their year, just to sit back and think, and then go back into the hustle. I think that would alleviate a lot of stress. but it'll allow them to still focus on doing things without being affected by things on the spot, but also clear their mind to find that purpose and to be able to get the trajectory they need.
It reminds me. Sorry, Vincent. It reminds me of a quote that I think we were at uni and he told me. It was, I think it's a proverb or a saying in the Bible. I think you remember that one. It was like, "Don't be a hinge."
Yeah.
Like you're always moving, but never getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And it's like the quote goes back to beware of the barrenness of a busy life. You can be busy, but you might not be going anywhere.
Yeah.
And so it goes back to Ali's point and your point as well, in that pursue whatever it is that you're doing, right? But do it intelligently and do it in a smart manner. And when you go, sometimes I think life is a pendulum. Sometimes you need to have periods of intensity in which you have to work, but there's times in which you have to, take a step back and just reflect on where you're going, right? And if you set a vector off in space, and if you just let it go and you give it a slight nudge over a very large period of time, what happens? The distance between those 2 points is going to be so great, and you might realize that at the end of your life, you might be like, "Oh wow, this is not where I wanted to end up at." And so reflection is so powerful. It's a closed loop system. If you have an open loop and you just let something go and have no traceability of where I wanted to go in relation to my goals, then you might potentially end up somewhere that, at the end of your life, you might completely regret and be like, "Oh wow, what a waste of time." And so it's important to know where your goals are, but also where the benchmark is and how you can have that being closed loop. You get feedback from your environment, you get it from yourself as to where is it that, where am I first of all, but where do I want to go? And how can I bridge the gap between those 2 points? And so it's critically important. And I think that goes to Ali's point into being able to think, and not necessarily being a student in the literal sense, but being able to think and be reflective and use your mind and to go forward much more intelligently. I think that's what Ali was trying to get at.
And to add to that, I think a good analogy is like, when some people say, let's say like a couple get angry at each other, and then they stay angry for so long that they forget why they actually got angry. And I think it goes back to that. It's like sometimes you, like when you're stubborn, you start working. You work for so long with like your head down that you actually forget why you started working in the first place. Yeah. Okay, I wanted to...
This is so deep.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to say something really before.
I swear this is about technology.
No, this is about technology. I mean, sorry, you said what you meant.
I was going to talk about technology.
This is completely related to the technology.
Yeah.
Maybe you say first and I'll tell.
Okay, cool. So this goes back a little bit. So I didn't want to disrupt anyone because it was really deep. So I'm like, I'll save it in my head before we go too off topic. You said something earlier about, and I think you mentioned as well, about how Western culture, society was built in the way that to make people like about wealth differences and things like that. And then somebody said it's a glitch in the system that people are rich, right? There's actually science behind this. And I'll tell you why. And I recently found this out. So I recently went into say for work, and I'm a hardware engineer. So I like design servers and server rooms and computing systems and network architecture, things like that. But something really interesting that happened was actually I won't talk about what happened, but
it's classified.
No, it's not. It's just it's not that interesting. But the what is it? The moral of the story is that when you have a server in your building, right? And you have, let's say, 50 racks of servers in there, and you don't do an airflow analysis to see how air moves in that system. What happens is, let's say the aircon shuts down, right? And the servers keep working, right? If you haven't done an airflow analysis, what will happen is if you've got a thermal camera after about a day of it running, you'll find pockets of hot air, right? Because no one's actually done an analysis to check if the ventilation has created pockets. Right? What happens is, because the way it's set up, when the hot air starts to circulate and creates these pockets that, okay, I'm fine now, but I put my hand out and all of a sudden it's about 20 degrees hotter, right? And the reason that happens again is because this analysis wasn't done before the design. And I think these glitches in society are the same thing, because nobody there was no engineering team that sat down and did simulations on Western society before it got developed.
Yeah.
But then also, it's not something, society isn't something we can just like stop and then restructure. We have to like figure out how to fix things. What things can you move around? Which server can I move this way? Which fan can I increase the speed of to get rid of those pockets?
It's such a complex system.
Exactly. It is such a complex system and we don't know all the variables, right? And so it's like, I think it's two ways. That some people are like, you know, it is what it is. Let's not change anything. We just got to live with it. But actually, we can do some things. We can change some variables to figure out what's wrong and how things can change.
Yep.
But yeah, that's something I wanted to say. And then I'm going to say one more thing because I'm going to use this clip later. This goes back to something you guys were saying about value of money. And I'm reading this book called it's called The Courage to Be Disliked. Really, really good book. And it talks about, and something really interesting that it said was like, it's a very short thing. It's like when some people say, I want to be a millionaire, right? What they actually mean is that they want to spend $1 million, right? But then when some people say they want to be a millionaire, that what they mean is they want to be able to have enough money they can put aside $1 million and never spend it. And I think that goes back to I think what we were saying about some people deserve to be rich and poor. Because like if your mindset is I want to keep making money so I can spend money, you'll never have enough money. And I think they were saying the difference between being rich and being wealthy is having money that you can put aside that you never touch again.
But there is a value on top of that. There is a story add on to that. The question is, what is money to you?
What is money to me?
Money
is time. I'm buying a piece of my future. If I can set it aside, I think so.
Money is a trust.
Trust? Okay.
Yeah. Money is a meaning of a trust within a society that shares between people. Some people can buy more trust from others. Because let's put it that way. Money is nothing more than just a piece of paper, isn't it?
That we add value to.
That we add value because we trust in it. Okay? So if you have more money, which means the system has certain level of trust in you that actually giving you by some sort of criteria that, you know, it values how much in a dollar value means that they pay you, okay, then you have it. So money is just a trust that everyone has to the system, okay? So if the system doesn't work in that sense, okay, people lose trust, and then brings down the value that you have or value that you own, okay? So coming back to your point, it used to be the way the people that measure trust was different in the traditional societies. The way we're actually moving forward, by the way that people actually trust or how the trust system works is actually transitioning, okay, with the AI, okay, with the technology, okay. So what we valued in the past may not be valuable in the future, okay, because the living style that we are creating, okay, is changing, okay, and no one really knows what's happening. So coming back to your point, is that we are keep changing it gradually, and we have to do it. It's not like we are stopping and, you know, just restructure everything. But what we all know that if you don't change it, it's going to collapse.
Yeah.
Okay. Look at our housing. Look at our medical systems. Okay. It's not something that I'm talking about. Everyone is talking about. So I'm not creating a conspiracy theory. You open the media, you know, everyone is talking about the problem of their housing, the problem of the medicals, and then, you know, the population issue, all these things. It's because people spend too much time repeating stuff rather than what you were talking about, questioning things. Because, you know, they were like, it's working, so it works until it breaks. Okay? What if, you know, we, not the way Ali was talking about, you know, we keep being a student, or what we talked about, not the way that you were talking about, not everyone can, afford to be a student, okay? What if there is a middle path, okay, that we change the way we work, okay? And that is the topic about how we incorporate AI into our working environment, okay? We don't completely diminish humans and replace them by AI, and we don't completely ignore AI. Okay, and that's what literally I've been working on for the last 10 years. In terms of the technology side, and in terms of how we actually implement these processes, it's not an easy thing. And that's why the discussions like this will create a vision for humans who are just at the moment are just scared of AI, and they don't know what it brings to them. Because let's be honest, transition is painful. Okay, and people are doing
creatures of habit.
It's a change of the habit.
Yeah.
Change is painful, regardless, because it's a change of the habit, as you said. But what we need to do, and what we should do, and what we are aiming to do, is bringing and make it pretty less painful for people, and picturing that, what if, we could make it better? Okay. What if we can actually implement that?
One thing I wanted to add on to that, and just sort of flow onto it, is how quickly technology is developing in terms of referring to AI and things like that, and how long it takes humans to develop and to improve and to change their ways. And one thing that just sort of came into my head is the recent development of Neuralink and how quickly we've been able to get to that stage. I think they were doing like human trials. And the scary thought of having that level of technology implemented into someone that's not trained enough to be able to deal with it. I don't know. It just sort of clicked into my head as you were talking.
Or someone is greedy of the power.
Yeah.
Because that is the most dangerous thing. Because it could easily flip over. And if someone wants to take control of others, or a group of people can want to, take control of the others, then that's the scary part. But coming back to you, because you mentioned something really interesting. I think we had that discussion. If you look at through the history, the speed of technological developments were like every 200 years, okay, up until before 19th century, okay. Beginning of 19th century, this is reduced every 50 years, and as times goes, by 20th century, it reduces to every 30 years. Now, beginning of 21st century with the internet becomes every 10 years, and now we are looking at every 4 months. Okay, what it does to us, to our brain, is that our identity connects to the nostalgia. Okay, who you are is about what memory you have from your past, not only from your past, but also your parents' past. Okay, and the reason we're this generation, or there is so much disconnect between the generations now, because what they have experienced as a nostalgia is very different to what we are experiencing as a nostalgia. In our parents' generation, they could see and feel what their parents or even grandparents actually see and felt when went through, so they can actually connect. But with our generation, okay, iPhone 3 is a nostalgia for me. iPhone 5 is a nostalgia for me. iPhone 6 iPhone 8 isn't.
iPhone 13.
It's going so fast
that changes
that it is, and coming back to your point, technology is the electricity. Our brain is chemical. Okay? And that is the contradict that actually it's very boring.
Yeah.
It's about how do we process that? And that's why it connects to the meaning.
Yeah.
If you're connecting our values or trust systems based on the technology, we're all done. But then we need to look at it from a cultural and social perspective, which then also implies about how we develop technology as well. Because if we don't socially develop, we cannot create ecosystems that develop further technologies, because the technologies becomes too complex that it is impossible that one person or a small group of people just jump on it and develop further.
Mark, can I ask a question? I think let's take this a bit practical, right?
Yeah, sure.
We have a lot of our audience is people like in their 20s that, and a lot of them, to be quite frank, don't have a history in technology.
Yeah.
Don't have a background in technology and don't have like an engineering kind of mindset, right? Sure. But let's say they wanted to work with AI and they wanted to make sure, I think like fear, it's not fear of AI, I think, it's fear of missing out on AI.
Yeah, fear of missing out, yeah.
And so it's like, what do you think, what advice would you give someone that, does no technology background, but is scared about missing out on AI? And how can they avoid doing that?
Wow, that's a difficult question because I don't think anyone's going to miss on AI.
No?
I don't think anyone is going to miss on AI. Because AI is already part of our life. Okay? The day-to-day life of people, we are using AI anyway. Okay? And the way our education system is transforming itself by force of the technology is that I think our kids gonna learn from early age how to develop an AI model.
Yeah.
Okay, mathematically and physically.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't think that fear ever exists. Even if you look at it from a business perspective. Okay. You develop a product, you need a buyer to gain part of the trust. Okay. The more people use it, okay, the more trust you get from a system. Don't look at the numbers in the banks and the values and billions of dollars. No, that's not the real thing. The real thing is that you get more users for your product. Okay, so it's the theory of the business. Okay, so if you are developing a product and only limited people are using it, there is no value in it. So that's how, from a business perspective, AI will become democratized. Okay, whether people want it or not, it becomes part of their life. Okay, it's like mobile phones. When it came out, most people were worried about, worried about, these radio waves or whatever is that gonna give me cancer or something like that. I remember, that people were worried about gonna put them beside your ear or something like that.
Yeah.
But look at that. My grandmother has an, iPhone now. Look at how we evolved. You cannot even live without it.
Yeah.
The dangerous part that people don't understand how these technologies developed. And that's how they become disconnected.
Okay.
That is where, imagine something like Optus happens in multiple different platforms that we all rely on it.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there is not enough people to actually solve those issues. Then that becomes a challenge.
I guess I just sort of wanted to say, I think we've definitely covered a lot of great topics in today's episode, it's sort of food for thought for the viewers to sort of just delve onto, and hopefully we can sort of expand on it on the next episode. We'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to listen to our episode, and hopefully there were some great insights, and we look forward to expanding and bringing more of these very great topics to you guys, and we're more than happy for inputs to see what you guys want to listen to and what we can explore further.